there, I'm Jack Lucas Caffrey, and firstly, thank you so much for the 20,000 views on my last interview with Christopher and Philip Booth. I knew it was gonna do pretty well, but I wasn't expecting it to outperform Murray from the Wiggles, so I greatly appreciate that, and thank you so much again. Unfortunately, that set a bit of a problem, however, because that interview did so well, I kinda needed to get my next guest to be someone who was quite notable in some regard. And thankfully, after 8 months, I have. My guest today is Keith Barry, who is a hypnotist and magician from Ireland that has done some absolutely insane tricks on some of the biggest stars across the world. I thought it'd be worthwhile to have him as a guest, and thankfully, he actually called over to my studio to do a face-to-face interview with me. So without further ado, I'm going to play the tape, and I hope you enjoy my interview with Keith. Enjoy. Keith Barry, how are you doing today?
Fantastic, how are you?
Oh, very good, very good. I'm glad to have you here and everything, especially because it's not the first time you've ever tricked me or done any sort of hypnotism stuff on me. I'd like to show the viewers just a little clip of what happened 6 years ago when I first met Keith.
So I just asked Jack to have a bucket list. He has it in his head, he hasn't written it down. I've written mine down. And you see third down there is Keith's bucket list. So you can see number 1 is go vegan, number 2 is stop going vegan because I'm never going to be vegan. So in a moment, you're going to choose a number from 1 to 77, and whatever number he chooses for me, I have to do that item today off my bucket list. I got to tick that. So to shave my head, I'll shave my head. What number are you? There's 77 of them on the list. What number are you going for?
40.
And why did you go with 40?
Because that's the number of my favorite band, Crush 40.
Okay, so there's my bucket list. Click on it. Just, you know, I'm going to do anything funny. It's not an app or anything like that. So, number 9 is lose 10 pounds. Call out loud 1 or 2 more of them. You call them out.
Right, so
what's number 14?
Buy a convertible.
Yeah, I've never had a convertible. What number did you say?
40.
Not 14, 40. Let's go down to 40. Read that out loud.
What the? What the fuck? Why does it say hypnotize Jack to pick this number?
I just ticked that off my bucket list. It's done. That was great fun.
Yes, and I mean as well. I mean, I remember that vividly. I remember thinking at the time a different number, and then going to 40.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you did it.
But here's the crazy thing. That was just a random moment in time where we just bumped into each other.
Yeah, it was off the cuff.
Yeah.
Which was absolutely mad. Now, I believe you've been doing this whole hypnotism and magician stuff for nearly your whole life, since you were 5, I believe. So, what sort of made you go and say, yeah, do you know what, I wouldn't mind being a hypnotist and a magician? How did that sort of come about?
Well, do you know, when I was 5, I got a Paul Daniels magic set for Christmas. And some of your viewers will be familiar with Paul Daniels. So back in the kind of 1970s, he would have been the #1 magician in Europe, certainly, if not in the world. And I got that magic set, and that just ignited my imagination with magic. And then, you know, every year I'd get a magic set for Christmas. But then when I was 14, I was in Scotland on a school tour, and I bought a little pamphlet on hypnosis called Practical Hypnotism by E. Wolf, which is obviously a pen name by somebody, so I never found out who E. Wolf really was. But I read that, and then I hypnotized a friend of mine. I learned hypnosis from that book. I hypnotized a friend of mine in our Irish class in school. He got detention because the teacher thought he was just messing, but he was actually hypnotized to be a chicken in the Irish class, so he got detention. And the teacher didn't know that I'd hypnotized him. So that was my kind of introduction, if you like, to hypnosis, and then it all snowballed on from there. I went to college in Galway, and I studied science in college, but my girlfriend at the time, who's my wife now, she studied psychology. So that's when I started to blend in the psychology. I started to read all of her psychology books. That's when I started to blend psychology with hypnosis, with magic, and, you know, I suppose the umbrella term that I use now is brain hacker, you know.
Yeah. So, I mean, how long does it take to kind of build that skill of being a hypnotizer to the point where you're going in class and you're hypnotizing people to be chickens and go pop, 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 pop?
Well, that was one of my success stories. That was an early success story, but then you have a lot of failures as a hypnotist as well.
Yeah.
I'm not shy to mention those failures, you know. You have to just, you know, keep going, fail often, and then eventually get better at it. Because look, hypnosis is a language-based skill, and it doesn't work on all of the people all of the time. You have to change your language to match other people's personalities. So, like, to answer your question, I'm still learning. Do you know what I mean? All these years later. But I think to become proficient at it, like, it takes literally attempting, if not hypnotizing people, a couple of thousand times really to really get it so it's more successful than not successful. Because what you really want is the odds in your favor. You want to be able to hypnotize 80% of the people that you attempt to hypnotize, rather than 80% of the time failing, which is what will happen at the start. And then that just slowly and gradually changes from 80% failures over a trajectory of time to 80% success rate. So, like, if it was to give you a timeline, it's hard, right? But I started when I was 14. I'm going to say 10 years. By my mid-20s, I was proficient at least at hypnosis. And that's 24 years ago now, so half my lifetime ago,
And that's kind of when your career really started to get going and everything, because in the early 2000s, you're doing a lot of kind of stuff stateside, a lot of stuff that were quite big. Probably the biggest thing you did in the online world anyway is your TED Talk in February 2004. Top 50 biggest in TED Talk, yours, 46 out of 50. I mean, what was it like doing that TED Talk?
Well, it's interesting because, truth be told, as far as I'm aware, we'd have to check this with David Blaine. So maybe David Blaine will come on as a guest sometime. So I know David quite well, but I've always forgotten to ask him this question. I believe he was booked to do the TED Talk, and he, for whatever reason, couldn't do that TED Talk. And I was completely unknown at the time. So I basically was called by, we both have the same lawyer and in LA, and my lawyer called me, Ken. Ken called me and said, David can't do a TED Talk. And do you want to do a TED Talk? And I said, well, what's a TED Talk? And then he had to explain it to me. And then I went and I did it. And it stayed in the top 20 TED Talks of all time for many, many years. And now it's been bumped down. But like I'm going to say, but probably at least 15 years was in the top 20 TED Talks of all time. And I only mention that because the relevance of that means, like, people don't understand the power of a TED Talk.
Oh, they're big.
But there's a difference, Jack, between a TED and a TEDx.
Oh, absolutely.
And TEDx is still very beneficial for people, and I would say very worthwhile for people to try and do a TED Talk, because it's very good for your brand. But there is a distinct difference between TED and TEDx. So with the TED Talk that I did, because it was in the top 20 for those years, and even now, I still get calls all these years later from like random places. Like, it could be somewhere in the States, or it could be Australia, from somebody who's seen my TED Talk, and I get hired still for events and for keynotes and speeches and things like that. So, like, it was a really kind of a career-defining moment doing that TED Talk. You had the likes of, Bill Gates was in the audience. Do you know what I mean? All these big heavy hitters.
Wait, he was in the audience? That? Oh my God.
I know, right? And all these other people were there whose names escape me now, but big heavy hitters in the time. So look, it was an amazing experience as just somebody so young,
Did you get any sort of like imposter syndrome thing when you were up on that stage with Bill Gates being there going, oh, I supposed to be here?
For sure. I mean, the interesting thing is, right, not only did I get imposter syndrome, I remember I probably had a week notice before I did the TED Talk. So I wrote the TED Talk quite quickly. And then I rehearsed hours every day for that week. I mean, hours and hours every day.
Yeah.
And then the night before, I was rehearsing, and I realized that what I was doing wouldn't work in the context of a TED Talk. I was over-rehearsed, and the speech just wasn't that good. So I literally just tore up my script, threw it in a bin, and the TED Talk that exists, that you can still find online, like, it was done pretty much off the cuff. There's a little bit of structure to it, but besides the structure that was there, the rest of it was fully off the cuff. So I think there's something to be said for that. Is rehearsing is key in any industry, especially the entertainment industry. Music, you got to practice. I've got to practice. But then there comes a moment when I think you have to just stop practicing and trust your gut instinct in the moment, and people can then feel the reality of that, which I like,
Oh, exactly. I mean, especially when it came to like the last thing you did on the TED Talk, which was the trick with the 4 cups and the spike.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Now, you've done this now to the people at TED. You've done it to Ellen DeGeneres. You've done it to Samuel L. Jackson. And probably funniest because he was absolutely scared. You did it to Redman as well.
Yeah.
And all times it worked perfectly. How did you manage that? Because it's amazing watching.
Well, here's the interesting thing. if you type into YouTube when magic goes wrong, you will find any amount of guys and girls who've copied me or attempted to copy me, and they've gotten it wrong. Like, for real. You can find it. You can find loads of them. So they've spiked their own hands, they've spiked spectators' hands, they've spiked presenters' hands live on air. So a lot of magicians and mentalists, they thought they knew my secret, and then they went out and did it and got it wrong, which I kind of find hilarious. So it's kind of known as this black trick of magic now, even though I'm certainly doing it the longest of anybody. I did it in 2006 on my CBS special as well, on Lord of the Rings. What was the lead actor on Lord of the Rings? His name escapes me now. I'll come back to me in a moment. Elijah Wood. Wood.
Yeah.
So I did it on Elijah Wood. So I've been doing that like since forever, and I've done it more times than anybody else in the world. And there's a real psychology behind what's going on there. But back to your question, how's it done? I can't tell you.
Obviously. I'm gonna have a bit of a problem just getting how everything's done, because magic.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, do you get any sort of, like, when you're touching Samuel L. Jackson's hand, Frozone himself, and you're trying to put it over, trying to not break his hand, and he's saying, "I'll call my agent if you do something." What's going on in the back of your mind?
Well, it's back to what you asked, actually.
Yeah.
And I suppose I didn't answer it properly. Was the imposter syndrome, right? I think everybody suffers from the imposter syndrome. Like, I deal with, I do a lot of one-to-one coaching, so I deal a lot with high-end executives. They all have the imposter syndrome. So nobody is unique in that regard. But in that moment, for sure, I'm thinking, subconsciously at least, I'm just this guy from Waterford who managed to somehow land myself backstage at the MTV Music Awards, and now I'm smashing Samuel L. Jackson's hands down over these cups, and it can go wrong. And now is not the moment to get it wrong, especially with him being Samuel L. Jackson and the bit of attitude that he had, which was said in a funny way, but there was an undertone of seriousness as well.
Absolutely.
You can see these things up on YouTube. And ultimately, so that's what goes through my head, I suppose, is just that. But then I think over time you learn that these are just normal people, like me and you, and unless it's Puff Daddy, not normal. And the reason I mentioned him is I filmed with him.
Did you? Oh God!
No, but here's a side note.
Right.
Just because you brought up Samuel L. Jackson, and that's a long time ago. That was backstage at the MTV Music Awards. I filmed. Right. And so here's a little snippet for you. I haven't spoken about this, so Jack has an exclusive here.
Okay.
So I filmed with Puff Daddy, or Diddy, or whatever his name is, with Ashton Kutcher. So they were both best buddies at the time. Okay. So I filmed with them backstage at the MTV Music Awards, and he was really actually rude and nasty to me. To the extent that I actually just kind of walked away. Cameras rolling, walked away. Yeah. That footage exists somewhere. I never saw the footage. We canned it. We never used it. So it's just an interesting side note into that mad world, But look, it was an amazing experience at that age to be interacting with all those celebrities. But again, they're just normal people,
Yeah. But, well, maybe not Diddy, but we'll disregard him. But when it came to like the other celebrities, you dealt with, like tons and tons, and doing tricks and all sorts of hypnosis on them. What was like sort of like your favorite, like the highlights that you had with any of them?
For sure, driving a car blindfolded with Nicole Scherzinger down a canyon road.
Oh my God, yes.
At like, I was driving 70 miles an hour, fully blindfolded. I couldn't see, and she was screaming her head off because she had no idea that was about to take place. And look, I've become good friends with Nicole since then, But that was a highlight moment for sure. Then I suppose another one, I really enjoyed my escape that I did for ITV. It was called Keith Barry, The Escape Live. And ultimately I got tied with 100-foot of rope to a chair by like two random audience members, and I got put into a shed full of explosives, and I had I think it was 2 minutes to escape before the shed exploded. And ultimately, and it was live on air, the shed exploded, and then I reappeared down the opposite end of what was technically an outside studio, because it was done in Longcross Studios in London, but ultimately it was outside. And ultimately, I ended up on the top of the James Bond wall. The famous James Bond wall that's seen in a lot of movies where it's like a dam, and he comes, he kind of rappels down the dam. I ended up reappearing on the top of that, and that was like a standout moment. Look, I've had a few. Yeah. Why don't we create a new moment here? So
yes.
So here's the idea. I want you to think now of something that you just have never drawn.
Okay.
Okay. And look into my eyes. whatever this is, I want you to just imagine in a moment that you're drawing it, but only when I snap my fingers. You imagine that you're drawing it. Okay. And I'm going to try and get this now.
Good luck.
I know, right? So look at me and start to draw in your head now. Give me no physical signals whatsoever. Okay, good. I'm starting to draw now. Okay. Sorry, I'm going to scribble that out. Good. Keep going. 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 Okay, I think I got it. Straight away, I think I got it.
Okay.
Okay, don't tell me what it is.
No, I'm not going to tell you.
Don't tell me what it is, but I'm going to show the camera first.
Okay.
Okay. This is a character.
Yes.
Of some kind. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Don't tell me who it is or what it is. I'm going to show the camera first. Don't look, Jack. Don't look.
Okay.
Just hold it right up to the camera there so they can see this. Okay, don't tell us, Jack, but just yes or no. All I want is a yes or no. Is that the character you're thinking of?
No. No.
I believe it is. No, I believe that is definitely the character you're thinking of. I believe that is definitely the character you're thinking of. Okay, but let me finish him off.
Okay.
I think I've finished him off. Be honest. I'm going to show the camera so they know I'm committed.
Okay.
Okay. Name out loud. What did you draw in your head there?
I drew Garrus Valkyrian from Mass Effect.
Garrus.
Okay, that's bad. I don't know how you got
Garrus right there.
That's an interpretation of Garrus, all right. Anyway, you've done some other like hypnosis stuff on like kind of probably one of the big ones you did. You did like hypnosis consultant stuff on the Now You See Me franchise. Yeah. Now You See Me 1, Now You See Me 2. So what was it like working on that film?
It was amazing. So on Now You See Me 1, I predominantly worked with Woody Harrelson, sharing knowledge with him on how to behave as a mentalist, as a hypnotist. And on Now You See Me 2, I wrote it directly into the script from day zero with Ed Solomon. So that was amazing because I worked on the script for, the bones of a year. Yeah. And then ultimately they asked me to go on set again in Longcross Studios in London, weirdly enough. And so I lived in London for 3 months while we filmed the movie. So I was working with the special effects department. I was working with all of the actors. So Mark Ruffalo, Jesse Eisenberg, all the different actors. Woody obviously was there as well. That was one of the highlights of my career, just interacting with those. And not only that, just the creative input that I had into that movie was really amazing,
Yeah. Now, it's just been announced a little while back that there's going to be a third Now You See Me movie. So I thought I'd get a bit of an exclusive off you and ask, are you involved in any way in the new one?
Well, here's the thing, Jack. I am not involved. Now You See Me. There's your exclusive. It's filmed and in the can, I believe. No, it's just like last year. So they filmed it all last year.
Oh, okay.
And last year, I literally was on a plane every single week, and I was booked out since January last year for the whole year. Gee. So all my bookings came in January. So I was on and off planes for the whole year, working at conferences and events all over the world, because that's most of my business now, as a motivational motivational person, motivational speaker. So ultimately, no, I didn't work on it. So look, I wish them the best and I hope it goes great for them. But it wasn't on number 3. So if it goes amazing, I take no credit, and if it flops, I take no credit either.
Exactly.
So there you go. So we'll see what happens. But look, I wish them the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there was a little bit of an oddball thing that you did as well. Now, as you mentioned, you did a lot of TV stuff, Discovery, RTE, MTV, all that. But one of the things that you did, which was a bit, not something you'd expect of you, is Deal or No Deal.
Oh,
what was that like, doing that?
That's a mad one. You know what? I'd say nobody's mentioned that to me in about 10 years. So there you go. Yeah, I did Deal. I can't remember what year that is. You probably have it.
2009.
There you go. Look at it. Jack knows my career better than me.
Yeah.
So 2009, Deal or No Deal was amazing. I'll tell you why. Here's the funny thing about Deal or No Deal in Ireland, right?
Okay.
So it took... So I'm terrible with numbers, but I'm going to get it roughly right. So it took in the UK something like 600 or 700 episodes with Noel Edmonds before somebody won the jackpot prize, right? In Ireland, on either the 4th or the 6th episode, I can't remember, but certainly in the first 10 episodes, 4th or 6th, I think it was, somebody in Ireland won the jackpot prize. Like they won the biggest prize you could possibly win. But for some reason, TV3, it was known as at the time, now Virgin Media, they just didn't tell anybody. So I was like, well, wouldn't you want to tell people so that they buy more of these scratch cards and stuff?
Yeah.
And it rated really well, but it didn't come back the following year because ultimately, this is so funny, ultimately, whoever designed the scratch cards, so you used to buy scratch cards in your local shop.
Yeah, like winning streak.
Yeah, and you'd scratch them off, exactly like winning streak, and then you'd potentially win the opportunity to be on the show. But they designed the scratch cards too big. So the scratch cards were like big things, which, let's be honest, it's mainly women of a certain age who buy scratch cards. Like so
my nana.
Yeah,
Is that what you're referring to?
exactly.
All right.
And my mum now, right?
Okay.
So normally they're buying the scratch cards, but they couldn't fit these scratch cards into their purses or their handbags or their pockets without bending them, and they didn't like bending them because they thought that would make the ticket null and void. So anyway, long story short, they didn't sell enough tickets because they made the ticket too big. And it was too late to do a redesign on the ticket, so that's how Deal or No Deal got cancelled in Ireland.
Okay, that is a peculiar way of cancelling a show.
Yeah, but look, again, I love experiences. I love the variety in my life. I don't just do one thing. Like, I work one-to-one with people. As I said, as a motivational speaker, I go all over the world doing that. Sometimes I'll do theatre shows. I'm not doing any theatre shows in 2025. At least I have none planned. I say I'm not doing any, and then sure, I might make a decision at the end of the year to do one. But right now, I'm not doing any public shows. Again, I'm just too busy with the corporate work.
Yeah.
You know?
Plus, I hear you have one show coming out in 2026. Show.
Yeah. So look, I'm definitely going to do. It's not on sale yet, so I don't really want to say it too much. I don't want to curse it, but look, I'm going to do the 3 Arena for sure.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm excited about that. So look, I'm in talks about just getting the date locked in, getting the tickets on sale, and so on, because I've done Borgosh, and that was 2,000 people, which was amazing.
Yeah.
But now it's time to step it up a notch. Look, I'm 48. I want to do some legacy-based stuff. You know, I've done a lot in my career, and I've enjoyed a lot of different experiences, but I'm not finished yet. So in my head, I'd love to do the big one being the 3 Arena. So we'll see.
That'd be good. That'd be very good. And when you say like legacy stuff, do you mean like bringing back someone like the best of the best, like the greatest hits? Yeah,
no, legacy-based stuff, what I mean is, for myself, I want to do something that an Irish, like, mentalist, magician, hypnotist has never done before. So that's what I mean. So, like, I know, to my knowledge, the only people in my genre who've played the 3 Arena would have been David Copperfield, and Dynamo did it as well.
Oh, yeah.
But certainly nobody from Ireland has done it. And I think they may be the only two in my genre that have done the 3 Arena. So so that's what I mean by legacy-based stuff. And yes, to go back to the way you took legacy up, I probably will bring out some of the best of my hits from the last 25 years. So, like, I've got a lock-up facility here in Kildare, actually, and in that facility, like, I've got my underwater escapes, which I did on tour sometimes, so I might pull one of those out because it's a big stage in the 3 Arena. You want to fill that stage and do some big stuff. So yeah, we'll see, you know. Yeah,
exactly. That'd be very good. So I wish you the best of luck.
Thanks. I'm looking
very, very, very cool. And you know, if you are bringing any back some of the legacy stuff, I mean, one thing, I mean, maybe you should bring back, because I think it was amazing, was the book trick. You know, the one I'm referring to, where basically there's a page, you stop on the page, there's an envelope. And somehow that page ends up. I don't know how you do it, but that's amazing.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, look, I still do that in my corporate events. That kind of effect that you're talking about, and I've got a variety of ways, different presentations for that is what I'm trying to say, and variety of different things. So yeah, I probably will, because I really enjoy that effect myself, you know. Yeah,
and I mean, it gets the reactions, because I mean, when I was doing my research, you know, usually what I do is I play a game on one of these consoles, and then I just kind of put it on in the background just a little bit.
Yeah.
I was pausing that game when I saw that trick.
That's good to know.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was like, that was a very good one as well. Have you done a trick, though, in the last while that has went, like, horribly wrong?
Yeah. Again, you can see it up on YouTube. So if you type into YouTube something like Keith Barry, you know, escape gone wrong, you'll find it. Okay. So and it was just some random audience member that was filming it and sneakily put it up on YouTube. So I was in the Olympia Theatre, it was sold out. There was like 1,200 people there, and it was in my 8 Deadly Sins theatre show. So as part of the 8 Deadly Sins, I test people for the sin of greed. So how greedy are people willing to get for money? So I would bring 2 random audience members up, and it was similar to my escape that I did for ITV that I mentioned. So I'd bring 2 random audience members up. They would tie me up with 100 foot of rope to a chair, And then they would wrap my head with a roll of cling film so I couldn't see her breathe. And the concept was, if I didn't get out of the rope faster than they tied me up in, I'd give them €1,000 each. That was the game every night that I was playing. So it was like, how greedy would these people be? And on this particular night, the rope was kind of loose. I thought it was going to be a handy enough escape, but then one of the guys just took one end and just started to cinch it down. And I just started getting crushed down like this. And I was like, what do you do for a living? And he said, I tie truckloads down for a living. So the way he had put the rope was designed to be loose to start with, and then he just took one end and just started putting, and it was like, and so I found it really difficult to get out that night. And then I kicked over in the chair to try and gain some slack. So I purposely kicked over in the chair, but I winded myself this night when I hit the ground. And when I winded myself, what do? You inhale. When I inhaled like a mouthful of cling film, and then just blacked out. And of course, as always, the audience thought it was part of the show, right? So I'm there blacked out, and like 3 of my stagehands came out and they popped a hole in my mouth, but I was still blacked out. I started puking into the cling film, and like it was just bad. And then Noel McHale, who was my promoter at the time in MCD, he hit the iron curtain button. So this iron curtain just came down slowly at the front of the stage like this, while the audience is still sitting there kind of, is this part of it? Like, what's going on? And that was the end of the show that night. And yeah, like I ended up ultimately to be fine. But here's the funny thing, like the 2 guys who had tied me up, they walked around to the side door of the Olympia and went ding dong and put their hands out for their cash after the show. So there you go. The sin of greed is real, people. And we paid them. They got paid their €1,000 cash each. But yeah, that was one where it went horribly, horribly wrong. But like I knew with escapes can go wrong. So I knew it may go wrong with one night. So that's why I always put it at the very end of a 2-hour show. So I knew that everybody in the audience had a 2-hour experience, so that they weren't going to come looking for their money back if I failed. And that one night I did fail, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the ones that you would think would fail surprisingly don't, though, because like, if we go back to Ellen DeGeneres, because you appeared on her show in 2020, kind of, around the kind of twilight of her show, and it was over the phone, like over Zoom and all that. But you still managed to do a very good trick, like a very good X and O trick, and a few other things as well. Is it harder to do it over the phone, or is it just like doing it here?
Oh no, it's definitely more difficult because you don't have that interaction. You don't have that. I feel people, right? I feel the emotion. I've got quite a high emotional intelligence, I believe, at least. So I feel people when I'm live. Obviously, I can touch people if I need to and stuff. So yeah, it's definitely more difficult. And look, as you said, like truth be told, I think Ellen had mentally tapped out at that stage. So
I could tell,
You know, and it wasn't just that one show. If you look at those shows around that period, she just wasn't excited. She wasn't bubbly because she had all that controversy, and then she kept doing the shows. And I think, look, I don't know, but I'm thinking that she probably would have quit earlier if the network probably allowed her to. So I don't know the ins and outs.
Yeah,
but I'm gonna guess they probably held her to her contract.
Possibly.
Yeah, and then she just wasn't the energetic person that I knew. And look, people ask me all the time, what was my experience? Like, I was on Ellen DeGeneres 7 times. And every experience was fantastic. I didn't see any toxic environment. I felt nothing but good energy from Ellen. So I think there's something to be learned from that. There's always a danger that, maybe Ellen might have had a... And listen, who knows the truth, right? I don't know. So I'm just surmising. But maybe... let's not talk about Ellen, but just in an environment where somebody might just have a bad day or a couple of bad days or whatever it is, or maybe a bad interaction with one person. And maybe they were wrong. We'll just say maybe they're wrong. But the problem with that then is when everybody jumps on the bandwagon, and we're in that environment in the world now, we're in that moment in time where everybody's ready to jump and attack. Everybody's ready to attack. So I personally felt a little bit bad for her because they seemed to attack her. And what I saw is everybody loving Ellen DeGeneres backstage is what I mean. Like all the personnel and her being kind and nice to people. So look, I think unfortunately she probably just went on that little bit too long, you know.
Yeah, because I mean, you could tell even when she introduced you, it was like, please welcome Keith Barry. I was
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Okay.
You're right. I felt a bit bad because I didn't even get that of any banter with her. It was like, okay, what trick have you got? I was like, I haven't seen you in a couple of years. Like, wouldn't we just have that little bit of?
I know, and do you know Sia? I'm like, yeah, I know Sia. I'm like, Jesus, you have a bloody hypnotist on the show. Lighten up.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a bit weird. But anyway, sure, look, it got me through that period of time when we're all stuck on Zoom, you know.
Oh, absolutely. And as well as during that time, you wrote a book called Brain Hacks, and you have a new book out called Sleep Hacks as well. What's it been like writing those books?
Difficult.
Okay.
I really enjoy writing my live shows. I really enjoy, writing TV shows. I find it profoundly difficult to write books, and I'll be straight. I don't know why I keep doing it. Like that, Sleep Hacks is my third book now. I find it a painful experience. I find it difficult, very rewarding when the book is out.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But because I am a man of research, so like I'm a scientist, so I research with sleep. I research sleep, what's out there at the moment, what's new, and then obviously had my own techniques as a hypnotist to help people sleep. So look, very rewarding when it's done. But anybody out there thinking of writing a book, if you're going to use your own brain rather than like ChatGPT is the danger now, right? That people are just going to write books using AI. But if you're going to use your own brain with your own philosophy, your own thought process, it's just a difficult experience. Yeah, which is what I do. It's a difficult experience, you know. And I keep saying I'm not going to write another book, but then I came up with an idea the other night that I thought, geez, that's a good idea for a book. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to write another book again, you know?
Yeah. So
yeah, it's hard. But look, as I said, very rewarding as well, you know?
Oh, yeah. And now, there was an audiobook version of Brain Hacks as well, but it wasn't narrated by you. Was that like a conscious decision of, this was too hard to do, I'm not doing it?
No, I'd love to narrate my own books.
That would be great.
But it takes 3 days, and I just don't have that time. Let's be honest with you.
Right.
And people might be saying, make the time, it's your book. But like, there's also certain financial decisions that have to be made around that 3 days. So unfortunately, I just don't have time to narrate my own books. So Sleep Hacks, people keep asking me this. Sleep Hacks will be out this year as an audiobook. It won't be me doing it again. I just don't have the time to do it. But the good news is I get to choose the voice. Okay. So a lot of people with Brain Hacks, they actually thought it was me because I found somebody that I thought was a reasonably good match to my voice.
Okay.
So it'll be similar with Sleep Hacks. So I sit across who narrates. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Now, and as well as that, you also have extra content from the book on your website as well. Now, I've not read the book. I read Brain Hacks, but I've not read Sleep Hacks. Well, a little bit of Sleep Hacks.
Yeah.
I read a little bit of Brain Hacks, but not Sleep Hacks. But I bet you now, I can hypnotize you into giving me the password for the Sleep Hack stuff.
Go.
Okay, so we're here on the page now, and I'm now going to look into your mind, and I want you to think the password.
Okay, I'm thinking of it.
Think the password. Okay, you're thinking it.
Yeah.
You know what the password is.
I
okay.
do. I'm sending it to you.
You're sending it to me, right? So I'm getting 2 words. Getting 2 words. But it's all in one word though.
Yep.
I'm getting 2 digits. They're both even. Okay. There's a K for Keith in there. Let me write it down.
Yeah, don't show them at home if you know what it is.
Is it?
It may be. There we go. I now have to change the password because they don't have the book, but now they have access to all the videos. So the password will be changed momentarily.
There you go. Well, that's what you get for making people forced to change their credit card information.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I'm guilty of that.
Yeah. I mean, like, I suppose it's probably the final, like, hack, kind of sort of brain hack I'll mention before we wrap it up. There was this one, I just stumbled upon it, which was a Wikipedia-based one, where basically you ask someone to open up a Wikipedia page and you guess correctly. I mean, I couldn't believe you managed that. Like, what was it like planning that one out?
Yeah, it's hard, right? Because sometimes I want to use technology, because we're in a tech-based world. But then sometimes I go anti-technology because people give the credit to the technology, right? So for me, I just like to use things that I think people are using every day. So, for example, if I had time to plan, because I didn't know really what this environment was going to look like until I got in here. If I had to plan for this environment, I might plan something around like Pac-Man, for example, or arcade machines. And then... or maybe around a kazoo, or, and I love that. There we go. And so it's hard sometimes using tech because people give the tech the kind of credit, right?
Yeah.
But truth be told, it's never the tech that's doing it for me. So ultimately, you know, I just love planning around modern day. So like right now I'm doing a lot of research into AI. I'm like, what can I do with AI, but blend that into the analog world as well.
Yeah.
So that people understand, oh, he did something with the phone or AI, but actually that's not how it worked. How it worked is Keith's mind. So it's always complicated. But look, I still love that challenge, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, as well as that, you've also predicted like future events as well. I've seen you do it on Today FM a while back at like sporting events, and when I was speaking to one of my uncles, and he was like, Jack, you having Keith Barry on? I was like, yeah, he just predicted that match like perfectly. I was like, did he? All right.
Yeah, well, the big one was I predicted Leinster would beat Leicester in the Heineken Cup final by 3 points. And I predicted that live on 98 FM when Dermot and Dave were there. That's a long time ago now. But you know, Paddy Power attributed 250,000 of his loss in that match to me saying that live on air. So watch out, Paddy Power. I might have another prediction coming soon for the Six Nations.
Oh, okay. All right. Very interesting. I have to stay tuned to find that one out. And I suppose we'll end it off here. Any future plans? Anything coming up? Anything we haven't mentioned?
Do you know what? Last year was so busy. I decided to take a little bit of a breather this year. So right now, it's back heavy into the corporate world. But the greater vision is this year to do more television.
Oh, okay.
So look, I'm doing a lot on my Instagram page. So if people are following me there, it's at Keith Barry. A lot in the motivational space, the entertainment space. I just want to create a tribe of like-minded, positive individuals on my page. So I'm doing a lot on my Instagram page. But aside from that, I do like traditional media as well. So I'm looking at doing another TV show this year. So fingers crossed that'll happen.
That'll be very good.
Stay tuned.
That'll be very good. Well, we'll look forward to that. And Keith, I suppose we'll end it there. Thank you so much for taking your time to come over here and chat. Any last things you'd like to say? And would you like to plug in the old socials?
Yeah, it's just at Keith Barry. I'm also on LinkedIn. It's just Keith Barry on LinkedIn. And the only thing I want to do right now is play Your Pac-Man. All right, absolutely. We'll do a bit of that. And you can find me simply on my YouTube channel, Jack Lucas Caffrey. I'm also available on Facebook and Instagram, where I'll be posting highlights of all the interviews I've done and some other shenanigans as well, as I'm going to be having a new song coming out pretty soon. But Keith Barry, thank you so much for coming on. And speak to you soon. Take care.